All right. Thanks so much for joining us. I am thrilled to welcome Nicholas Such, class of 2011. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having me, Evan. It's great to be here.
So I want to talk a little bit about Newark Academy. I've read some of the things that you did as a student at Newark Academy, which are really impressive, and I want to talk about a couple of those things. But were there any teachers at Newark Academy who were influential or stand out in your memory?
Oh, certainly. Probably top of the list, I would say, was Ms. Tavares, who I had for sixth grade science. I mean, I think that anybody who's familiar with her can understand immediately why she would be top of the list. Coming to new school as a sixth grader, I mean, how old are you? 11? 10, 11. It's a bit of a kind of occasion for a bit of trepidation, and she just immediately put me at ease. And just something I will never forget. Just a terribly kind person. And then, of course, Mrs. Shotland, who I had both in eighth and ninth grade. She and I had a very special relationship in the classroom. A lot of times, would stay after class to have political discussions, kind of spar a bit there. Um, I think that she would appreciate that over time I've sort of adopted her perspective. So with age comes wisdom there. She was an instrumental mentor and support system in establishing the cooking club as well. Um, in the first half of high school for me.
Right, and I know cooking plays a big part in your life too. Can you talk a little bit about your passion for cooking, and also tied to that, the nonprofit that you started?
Sure. Well, I think it's sort of part of the DNA coming from a Jewish Italian family to sort of have a strong affinity for food and for cooking.
Mhm.
I've just always been around great cooks in my family. And my parents are foodies, and some of my happiest memories of childhood are going into New York on a Friday or Saturday evening with them and going to a new restaurant. But in high school, actually, while I was at Newark Academy, I would commute into the city. I think it was Thursday nights, and I took classes at the French Culinary Institute. So I do have a bit of kind of classical training there, and I worked in a couple of professional kitchens, most notably at Serenade in Chatham.
Mhm.
But it's just always something that's kind of been floating around in what I've been doing. You alluded to the nonprofit. So, as mentioned in the Lumen article, and as I think Evan, I participated in the inaugural class of the School for Ethics and Global Leadership in DC in the fall of 2009. And
Mhm.
as part of a three-component capstone project, each graduating student had to leverage funding from Ashoka's Youth Venture Program, which is specifically tagged for affecting change through social entrepreneurship, and start a venture that had some sort of positive social impact. And
Mhm.
so, what I decided to do was marry interests of cooking and international affairs and cultures other than my own, and create a nonprofit that was 501c3 exempt in New Jersey, to teach young people about cultures other than their own, through cooking lessons. And that was called Spice of Life. And operated that for a period of time, and kind of discontinued that as college ratcheted up in intensity. But I always thought that was a great idea, and contend that food is the kind of greatest common denominator among disparate groups of
Mhm.
people.
Mhm. And did you ever consider going into a career, a food related career?
Um, Not particularly. I think that there are certainly great life lessons that come from working in a kitchen, not least the fact that there's no I in team.
Mhm.
And so it does really teach you to be innately collaborative. And I think that's directly applicable to being a business person.
Hmm.
But I don't think I could probably get used to my clothes perpetually smelling like cooking oil, and working odd hours and never being able to see my family, etc. But
Hmm.
never say never.
Right. Well, you received your BA in Metropolitan Studies and Business from NYU.
Yes.
We are both fellow Violets, and certification in real estate finance and investment from Schack Institute. Can you talk a little bit about your career path after your undergrad and sort of your decision to go back to school to get your MBA? I know that a lot of our young alums, that's a decision that is sometimes hard to make, whether it's the right thing to do or not. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I've always sort of had my eyes set, I would say, on a career broadly in the real estate investing space. I've always been an architecture nut since I was a little kid. I was flipping through Frank Lloyd Wright books, Mies van der Rohe, etc.
Hmm.
And career in the real estate investing space represents the opportunity, again, to marry that interest with the desire to do something entrepreneurial as a business person. And so that was always on the cards for me. And that's sort of why I tactically decided to study what I did while I was at NYU. And
Hmm.
so I was hired out of college by a private equity firm called Clarion Partners based in New York City, that invests primarily in the United States. So, although towards the end of my tenure, I was assistant portfolio manager of a vehicle that invested opportunistically in Mexico. And that was a great experience. It was kind of like a classical education in real estate investing.
Hmm.
Had my hand in every aspect of the investing process, to identifying prospective acquisitions, to working through the underwriting process, closing, negotiating purchase and sale agreements, to asset management, to um, client relations and fundraising activities, all the way down to winding down portfolios and running disposition processes. And loved that. I was immensely blessed, with the really high caliber of people that I was working with, who pushed me sort of in the right way, I would say, to grow. Um, and, in terms of going to business school, that was also something that was kind of always on the cards for me. So I always knew that I wanted to start a business.
Okay.
I was at the time, focused on that being kind of a fund vehicle that was focused on opportunistic investing in emerging markets. Again, because I'm really passionate about cultures other than my own, and what better way to sort of tap into that side than actually living for an extended period of time in a place that's quite different to the New York City metropolitan area.
Hmm.
And frankly, my college background, it was not the most conducive to knowing everything that one might need to know about starting a business.
Right.
And so that was sort of the next logical step, after I felt like I had developed a skill set that would be valuable to colleagues in a business school setting, right? Because that's the whole idea of going to get an MBA, is that you work for a period of time and that you're able to contribute in a way that others can grow from you, and the other way around,
Hmm.
because it is so discussion based and case based.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm halfway through the MBA at this point, with graduation, frankly, right around the corner in May.
Wow. Well, that's so great. Um, so let's now switch to talk a little bit about Lettey
Sure.
and how the idea was born. Um, if you could tell us that story, that would be great, and then we can talk a little bit more about the functionality of it.
Sure. So the initial idea was actually something that came up by an organic use case of my co-founder, Jessica Rosner, who was a colleague of mine at Columbia Business School. She's since graduated. basically what happened is she had obtained a really great internship offer to work at Related in Los Angeles. She's a native New Yorker and doesn't really benefit from, an extended network in Los Angeles, at least readily available to her. And so she really had a very difficult time finding, a quality place to live on a medium-term basis, right, for the
Mhm.
2 to 3 months that she needed it as an intern in Los Angeles. And so after really sort of racking her brain, to try and find a place, she eventually found a sublet through a friend of a friend. And it occurred to her that were there to be a platform that sort of leveraged extended social networks in the context of the home search process, that it would actually be an immensely empowering tool.
Mhm.
And so that's sort of where the big bang happened, and we just sort of started going from there.
Great. So can you talk a little bit more about the sort of the process of signing up, and it's not just for renters, correct? You can sign up as a landlord as well, or
Correct.
mm,
So effectively, what we've done is we've developed what is necessarily a double-sided marketplace. So at the highest order of magnitude, what we're doing with this product is we're trying to revolutionize the home search process by applying the social context that we know is particularly resonant with young people, millennials and Gen Z.
mhm,
So, for example, take an app like Hinge, which is a dating app that leverages social login technology, initially through Facebook. What you do with our platform is you're prompted to sign in through initially Facebook and will be subsequently through other platforms. Our app pulls down that connections data and then cross references it against the usership of our app. And then it's organized on a proprietary, dynamic, and engrossing map where you can kind of click into different nodes, we call them, of our test market, New York City, which are centered on different neighborhoods. You can see, as a result, people who where they live, and their associated, kind of trusted and authentic feedback on that particular neighborhood
mhm,
across 4 different metrics, which we think are the only 4 things that people care about, which are the accessibility, the diversity, fun, and the value quotients of a particular neighborhood. So you're then sort of empowered to do a comparative shop as a prospective renter. Look around and find a place that a neighborhood that resonates with you in terms of feedback and people living there across your extended network. And then from there you can start a pretty conventional shopping process of browsing to see listings and that are particularly interesting with you, and then you can chat in real time with listers. And then it's, far beyond that. We've designed the workflows to be very kind of all encompassing. So it's really a one-stop shop. You can effectively find a place to live on the app to all the way to scheduling recurring rent payments and getting renter's insurance through Lemonade on the platform. So it's really end to end. And then, you're correct. Also, of course, individuals can act as listers as well, either for full-term fresh leases, 12, 24 months, or, for a medium-term sublet as well. So, that again is sort of endemic to this double-sided marketplace model that we are, trying to really stage an intervention in the way that people, particularly young people, find homes. At present, it's too difficult to find a place to live.
mhm,
And people we know through extensive customer discovery are highly motivated to live where people they know are living. And we know that the most frictional component of actually finding a place to live is finding a neighborhood within a particular market that's going to be uniquely resonant with the particular sensibilities of the given renter. And
mhm.
so we solve for both of those things with this platform.
Yeah, I mean, I wish this platform was around when I was looking for apartments in the city because that
Everyone
process
says
was
this.
Yeah, I would not want to relive that process again.
Right. So, I mean, our whole idea is that, particularly if you think about someone relocating, it's almost like a new frontier coming to a new city. And
Mhm.
so it should be fun and it should be exciting and it should be exhilarating. It shouldn't be anxiety and angst inducing. And
Right.
so we think that this sort of unique value proposition of applying social context, experiential context, which we know is so motivating for young people in terms of how they respond to the marketing of goods and services will just sort of be a no-brainer,
Mhm.
um, and should change the message on how people find homes.
Right. So, are there other projects or ideas that you have that you are thinking about now, or will be working on once you graduate?
Well, I can tell you that it is more than enough to focus on one project of this magnitude at a time.
Mhm.
Um, and so the answer is no. Of course, I do sort of think about things that bother me
Mhm.
over the course of one's daily life, and whether it's possible to develop an intervention that would remove that
Right.
agita. But let's just say nothing that would rise to the level of sophistication that I would share with you at present.
Yep. Well, Nick, thank you so much for talking to us today. I hope that alums will check out Lettey, especially if they are, graduating from college and looking to move to the city. So, thank you
I hope
for,
so too.
yeah, thanks for being with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.